こんにちは。松本です。今日このような機会を与えていただいて本当に感謝しています。
Hello everyone, my name is Noriko Matsumoto. I'm grateful for the opportunity given today for being able to talk about my experience here.
私、松本のりこはですね、2011年の3月の11日14時46分、勤務先の福島市にて東日本大震災にありました。で、帰宅困難となって福島市の高校の体育館で不安と寒さの中、一夜を過ごすことになりました。当時、私は郡山市で夫と小学6年生の次女と暮らしていました。
I experienced great East Japan earthquake at 1446 on March 11th, 2011 at my workplace in Fukushima City. Unable to go home that day and feeling insecure, I spent a freezing night at a high school gym within the city. In those days, I lived in Kohriyama with my husband and our second daughter, a sixth grader.
翌日12日ですね、体育館内でインターネットから流れる各地の被害、そして津波の映像が目に飛び込んできました。何としても自宅に帰らなければと思い、福島市からタクシーで郡山市に戻る中、郡山市の被害の大きさに驚きました。そして食料と水の確保に近くの店に2時間以上かけて並びました。少ない食料を手に自宅に14時30分ごろ到着して、家族は無事自宅に集まっていました。
The next day, what I saw on the internet screen available in the gym was a vast destruction caused by the tsunami. I strongly felt the need to go home. Somehow get home. While hurrying home in Kohriyama by taxi, I was amazed to see the extent of destruction in my city. Before reaching home, I stood in a line at a nearby shop for more than 2 hours to obtain some food and water. With a bit of food I managed to buy, I got home at around 14:30, where my family members were together, safe and sound.
ほっとしたのもつかの間で唯一電気だけがつながっていたためにテレビがついていました。そのブラウン管から驚く映像が目に入ってきました。福島第一原発の1号機の爆発の映像でした。主人は大変なことになったとにかく情報を得るためにラジオをつけ釘付けになっていました。
I was relieved to find them there, but this feeling of relief did not last too long. Luckily, the electricity was available, so we turned on the TV. But soon I saw a shocking scene. It was that of an explosion at the #1 reactor at the Fukushima plant, a nuclear plant. My husband said, "Something awful had just happened." In order to obtain as much information as possible, we were glued to a radio.
強い吉野中寒さのために、石油の確保、ガソリンの確保にガソリンスタンドに並びました。異常なほどの車の数の中に主人と交互に並びました。
While experiencing powerful and repeated aftershocks, we drove to a nearby petrol station to obtain heating oil for the house and gasoline for our car. But the line was unusually long and slow-moving that my husband and I took turns waiting for our turn.
そして3月14日、再び福島第一原発の3号機の爆発です。東京にいる妹から郡山にいては危ないのではないか、せめて次女を自分のところに連れてきた方がいいと連絡がありました。当時、交通手段がない中、なんとか高速バスのチケットが取れて、3月24日の11時発の高速バスに次女と2人、妹の 住む東京へ向かい、娘を妹夫婦の家に預けて、私は再び郡山へ戻りました。
Soon there was another explosion. This time it was that of reactor number 3. My sister in Tokyo was concerned about our safety being where we were and suggested that we send our daughter, at least, to her place. In those days, the public transport systems operating regularly were limited, but we managed to get highway bus tickets for myself and the daughter, departing Kohriyama at 11 in the morning for Tokyo on March 24th. After depositing my daughter at my sister's place in Tokyo, I U-turned to Kohriyama.
不安な日々が続く中、3月24日から仕事が開始の連絡があって、郡山から福島へ高速バスで通勤する日々が始まりました。
While anxious days continued, I was notified by my employer that our work would restart from March 25th. So I began commuting again to my workplace in Fukushima from Kohriyama by highway bus.
そして次女の通学する小学校より中学校入学式の連絡があり、不安はありましたが、当時頻繁に福島のラジオで福島は安全である、マスクをする必要はない、子供を外で遊ばせていい、洗濯物や布団を外で干していいと語っていました。長崎から来た山下俊一という人物の発言に影響されて、入学式のため次女を東京から郡山へ連れ戻しました。
In the meantime, my daughter's elementary school sent me a letter regarding the forthcoming ceremony for entrance to junior high school. I was worried about radiation exposure, but in those days, I heard Dr. Shunichi Yamashita, a well-known specialist on radiation exposure from Nagasaki, saying repeatedly on a local radio that it was safe in Fukushima and that there was no need to wear a mask. He also kept saying that it was all right to allow children to play outside and hang outside the laundry and futon, the bedding materials. He affirmed that it was safe for the evacuees to return for the entrance ceremony. Having been assured by his words, I brought back my daughter from Tokyo to Kohriyama to attend the ceremony and to go to school at home.
5月中旬に勤務先のスタッフの4歳の息子さんが鼻血を出していると聞きました。それがきれいな鮮血の鼻血ではなくて黒びた鼻血だと言いました。その話と同時時進行に6月10日、東京にて福島の子供を守るため母親が訴えるという記事を目にします。私は仕事を休んで東京へ向かいました。
During May, I heard that a 4-year-old son of a staff member at my workplace had a nosebleed, and that the color of the blood was dark rather than bright red. While that was the topic of workplace conversation, I came across a newspaper article indicating that there would be a gathering in Tokyo on June 10th, where mothers from Fukushima would make an appeal for the protection of their children. So I took a leave from work and went to Tokyo.
そしてやはり私たちが心配不安に思っていたことが静かに始まっていることを理解しました。そしてそこで福島の子どもを放射能から守るメーリングリストがあることを知って早速私はメンバーに登録しました。それから情報収集のためにインターネットや本を探る日々が始まりました。
There I learned that what we had been worried about was quietly progressing. I also learned the existence of a mailing list of those who were trying to protect their children from radiation exposure. I immediately joined the group and began collecting relevant information on the internet or by reading avidly.
6月23日の朝、次女がやや多めの鼻血を出しました。 同僚の話していたことと同じで、きれいな話ではなくて、黒く固まった鼻血でした。鼻血は収まって学校へ行きましたが、学校でも鼻血を出したと教頭先生より電話連絡がありました。
In the morning of June 23rd, our daughter had quite a heavy nosebleed. As what I had heard from my colleagues, her blood was also dark and thick, rather than bright and red fresh blood. Her bleeding stopped, so she went to school. But the vice principal of the school called me later to inform me that she had had another nosebleed at school.
その後も数回の下痢症状と吐き気による学校早退の娘を見るたびに不安が募りました。メディアやラジオからは、長崎医大から来た山下俊一という人物が安全ではないが安心して生活をして大丈夫だという講演をしていました。
Thereafter, our daughter repeatedly came home earlier than usual because of diarrhea and nausea she has suffered while in school. My concern increased while seeing her in this condition, but Dr. Yamashita from the Nagasaki Medical University continued to be on the media, repeatedly assuring us by saying, "You may continue to live in Fukushima in peace, though it may not be totally safe."
でも私は自宅や自宅周辺の放射線量を測ってみようと思いました。市議会議員の方から線量計をお借りして測ると、家の中の1階が毎時 0.4 から 0.6 マイクロシーベルト、2階が毎時 1.2 マイクロシーベルト、玄関の外が毎時 2.6 から 2.7 マイクロシーベルトありました。私はこのままでは娘を被爆させてしまうと思い、7月13日夏休みを待たず、妹夫婦を頼って東京へ来ました。妹を連れて、次女を連れて、そして自主避難を決めました。
So I borrowed a dosimeter from a member of the city council and started measuring the radiation levels at home and around our house. I discovered that it was 0.4 to 0.6 microsievert per hour on the first floor in the house, but 1.2 microsievert per hour on the second floor. However, it was 2.6 to 2.7 microsievert just outside the entrance door. I then realized that my daughter would be exposed to radiation too much if we continued to stay there. So on July 13th, without waiting for the school summer vacation to start, I decided to voluntarily evacuate from Kohriyama with my daughter to join my sister and her husband in Tokyo.
その時期、神奈川県で民間借り上げの応募を8月1日から開始する情報をメーリングリストから知って、早速応募しました。
Around that time, I obtained the information through the mailing list I had joined earlier that the Kanagawa Prefecture was accepting applications starting from August 1st for a number of apartment units they had secured. Those units were to be provided rent-free to evacuees from Fukushima, so I immediately applied for a unit.
10月31日、やっと神奈川県の民間借り上げ住宅を借りれることになり、妹夫婦宅から川崎へ住居を移動しましたが、娘はもう妹夫婦の自宅から近くの中学校へ通学開始してましたので、私と娘は別々の生活をすることとなり、夫は仕事の関係で避難できず、現在夫とは1ヶ月から2ヶ月に1回程度会うことしかできていません。
On October 31st, we were finally given an apartment, so I moved out of my sister's place to Kawasaki, just next to Tokyo, where it was situated. However, my daughter was already in a new junior high school near my sister's house, so she and I began living separately. My husband, on the other hand, could not evacuate himself due to his work, and we managed to see each other once every 1 or 2 months.
今思えば、当初は慣れない東京の生活、環境の違い、人間関係にかなりの不安と喪失感で心が疲れている中、それでも無我夢中で過ごしてきたように思います。
As I now look back, I was completely absorbed in trying to adjust myself to a new life, a new environment, and new human relationships in Tokyo, despite the anxiety, insecurity, and the sense of loss I was experiencing.
私は2011年7月に自分で自宅の線量を測定するまで郡山の空間線量のデータを聞いたことがありませんでした。メディアも伝えないし、行政も教えてくれませんでした。今では郡山でも3月15日から高い線量を記録していたことが分かっています。私は行政から正しい情報と知識が与えられていれば、もっと早く適切な行動をとることができましたし、せっかく一旦避難した次女を郡山に戻すこともなかったと思っています。残念でなりません。
In 2011, I had never heard of or seen the data regarding the space dose of radiation in Kohriyama until I began measuring it myself in July. Not only that the media was silent about it, but also our prefectural government did not tell us anything. We now know that the radiation level in Kohriyama was quite high after March 15. If we had been given accurate information from our government at the outset, I believe we have been able to take proper action to better protect ourselves. I would not have made my daughter come back to Kohriyama from Tokyo after evacuating her there once. I truly regret what I did.
2011年12月、前野田総理が福島第一原発の事故に就職宣言をしました。どういう理由なのか、今もって私には分かりません。
In December 2011, the former Prime Minister, Mr. Noda, declared the end of the accident at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. However, I still do not understand on what basis that declaration was made.
その後、次女は郡山にいた時ほど体調不良を訴えることはなくなりましたが、傷の治りなどが悪くなっていると思います。私も膝の痛みが出たり、高熱が出たりし、2013年の9月に、膠原病の中のライター症候群と診断を受けました。感染がきっかけとなる自己免疫疾患です。医者からはほぼ1年で完治する病気だと説明されましたが、現在も内服治療中で定期的に血液検査が必要です。体中の関節が痛く、特に寝起きが大変です。医者からは橋本病もあると言われています。私はこれらの病気はいずれも被爆との因果関係が否定できないと思っています。
Thereafter, my daughter stopped complaining about her health as often as she had done before. But whenever she was injured, she seemed to require more time to heal. As for myself, I sometimes had knee pains and high fevers, and in September 2013, I was diagnosed with collagen disease, or known as Reiter's syndrome. It is an immunological disease associated with infection. The doctor explained that it would be cured in about 1 year, but I'm still under treatment for this condition and need regular blood tests. I feel pains in joints in my entire body, especially when I get up in the morning. The doctor told me that I also have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or thyroid disorder. I believe the causal relationship between my current condition and radiation exposure cannot be denied.
福島県から県民健康管理調査として2011年3月11日から4ヶ月間の行動を書くように基本調査が送られてきました。私と次女は一生懸命思い出して書きました。その後、この4ヶ月間の被爆量について私は 1.9 ミリシーベルト、 次女は 1.8 ミリシーベルトと通知が来ました。わずか4ヶ月間でこれだけもの大変な被曝量です。こんな行動記録だけで算定する被曝量は全く信用ができません。日本政府や福島県が本当に国民や県民の健康を心配するのなら、被爆の初期に血液検査や尿検査をしてほしかったと思います。
In the meantime, Fukushima Prefecture sent us a basic questionnaire as part of the health management survey. We were asked to write down about our movements during the 4 months starting from March 11th, 2011. And so my daughter and I put down our movements and sent back to the prefectural government. Later we discovered that I had 1.9 microsievert of radiation exposure, while daughter had 1.8 microsievert. These levels just within 4 months were significant enough, but the exposure calculated simply based on our memory is not reliable. If the Japanese and Fukushima prefectural governments had really been concerned of our health, I wish they had carried out blood and urine tests of all residents in affected areas at the very early stage of radiation exposure.
私は日本政府と福島県は事故直後にせめて子どもだけは避難すべきだったと思います。避難させるべきだったと思います。事故直後、フランス、ドイツなど海外の政府は日本にいる自国民に被災地や首都圏から離れるように勧告しました。3月16日には米国は福島第一原発から50マイル、日本では80キロ圏内の米国民に対し避難を勧告しました。しかし日本政府は直ちに影響はないとして重要なことを何一つ私たちに知らせず、私たち市民は被爆してしまいました。
I firmly believe that the Japanese and the prefectural government should have at least evacuated the children from affected areas immediately after the accident. In fact, France, Germany, and other governments recommended their citizens in Japan to evacuate themselves from affected areas, including the Tokyo metropolitan area. On March 16th, the US government advised its citizens living within 50 miles or 80 kilometers from the Fukushima Daiichi plant to leave the area. However, the Japanese government assured us by saying that there was no immediate effect of the accident. By not sharing any important information with us, our government made its citizens expose radiation unnecessarily.
当時、飲み水、食べ物、石油、ガソリンなどを確保するために子供を連れて放射能物質が飛び交う中、路上に並んでしまったことを悔やんでいる親がたくさんいます。あの時、海外の政府が勧告したように、日本政府が正しい情報や避難指示を出していれば、私の娘は無用な被爆をせず、大量の話を出すことなく、体調の不良を訴えることもなかったはずです。
During those days following the earthquake, the tsunami, and the accident, many people had to stand in long lines to secure drinking water, food, heating oil, gasoline, etc., without realizing that they were getting exposed to radiation. Many parents now regret that they took their children around to secure those essential items for survival, resulting in their children getting exposed to radiation unnecessarily. If the government and prefectural government had provided us with the accurate information and had issued the evacuation orders, as many foreign governments had done, my daughter would not have been exposed to radiation unnecessarily and would not have complained about nosebleed or poor health.
福島県の首長たちの中には、事故直後に自分の家族は逃がしながら、私たちに対しては避難する必要はない、復興といい、子どもたちを逃がそうとしない人がいるという話を聞きました。とても腹立たしい思いです。
I heard later that among some municipal council leaders within Fukushima, there were some who evacuated their own families to elsewhere, while kept telling the residents that it was not need to evacuate. They are also not willing to let children leave the area by repeating this slogan, recover and reconstruct Fukushima. When I see and hear what goes on, I really get upset.
この国では国民が大切にされていません。日本がこんな国だったのかという深い落胆があります。私自身の今後の健康も不安ですし、高校2年生になった次女の将来も不安です。次女は2011年4月から7月まで余分な被爆をしてしまいました。これからいつ発病するかもわからないという時限爆弾を抱えて生きていかなければならなくなったと思います。
In this country, I feel that its citizens are not well treated or protected. I have a great sense of disappointment in seeing the reality of my country. Not only that I'm anxious about my own health, I also worry about the future of my daughter, now in the 11th grade. She was exposed to radiation unnecessarily from April to July 2011 and has to live with the possibility of falling sick in any time from now on, and as if having to live with a time bomb.
今月16日の郡山の自宅の周りでは、毎時 0.6 や 2.26 マイクロシーベルトの場所がありました。これは放射線管理区域と同じレベルです。看護師がレントゲン室に入るときは必ずプロテクターをつけます。子どもにはできるだけレントゲンを取らないことも当然のことです。放射線管理区域と同じレベルの環境で子どもたちが無防備に生活しているのは明らかに間違っています。
On the 16th of this month, the radiation count on the dosimeter showed 0.6 microsievert, or even as high as 2.26 microsievert in some spots around my house in Kohriyama. These counts are as high as those in radiation-controlled areas, where they are forbidden by law for anyone to enter without protection. For example, when a technician enters an X-ray room, he or she always puts on a protective gear. It is understood that children should not be X-rayed unnecessarily. It is clearly unjustifiable for children to have to live without protection in the environment that should be classified by law as radiation-controlled areas.
今月8日に発行された雑誌に公表されました NPO 法人の測定結果によると、現在次女が事故当時通っていた郡山の中学校は地表面線量が毎時 0.52 マイクロシーベルト、土俵の放射性セシウム137は平方メートルあたり43万8000ベクレル、愕然としました。あと少しでチェルノブイリ避難基準の強制移住ゾーンの放射性セシウム137の平方メートルあたり55万5000ベクレルだからです。
A magazine issued on the 8th of this month reported the radiation levels of various spots measured by a non-profit organization. I was astonished to learn that it is currently 0.52 microsievert at the ground surface of the junior high school my daughter attended till July 2011. Furthermore, the radioactive cesium-137 contained in the soil of the school ground was a shockingly 438,000 becquerel per square meters. This is almost as high as 553 553,000 becquerel per square meters, which is the criteria for forced evacuation zones after the Chernobyl accident.
このような危険にもかかわらず、日本政府と福島県は自主避難した人々の避難先の住宅に対する家賃提供を2017年3月で打ち切ることを正式に発表しました。それは私たち自主避難者をこのような危険な場所に帰還することを促すためです。このような政策は私たち自主避難者の命と健康を脅かす犯罪、人道に対する罪ではないでしょうか。
Despite this risk, the Japanese and Fukushima prefecture governments officially announced the termination in March 2017 of the housing aid to those who evacuated voluntarily from Fukushima. This policy intends to encourage those of us, the voluntary evacuees, to return to areas of high risk. Isn't such a policy a crime against humanity that threatens the life and the health of voluntary evacuees?
私たちはぜひ日本政府と福島県の責任を明らかにしていきたいと思っています。そして世界中の人々が私たちと一緒に原発事故から子どもたちの命を守ってください。そのために共に頑張りましょう。以上です。ありがとうございました。